How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Yud Tes, Daf 19 of Masechta BavaMetzia. Friends. Your friends? Yeah, alright. Yeah. Daf 19 is kind of like a funny daf. Daf 19 is kind of like a funny. There's a lot of very verbose bits to Daf 19. I think. Let me roll up my sleeves 1 second. All in all, I think Daf 19 shouldn't be that difficult. I think Daf 19 should not be that difficult. Here goes everything. Gewaldig. Okay, we started Daf 19 about 7-8 lines into the page. Gufe, bam. We said earlier, Motza get Isha Bashuk. So you find epis a writ of divorce in Shuk Machne Yehuda. Bismacha Baal Modeh. So if the husband he says, yeah, okay, that's my wife's get. Yachzer, so you can give it to the wife. Yachzer Isha, you can return it to the wife. Ein Abal Modeh, but if the husband says, I don't know what you're talking about, that's a piece of paper you found in Shuk Machne Yehuda, that's not a real get, that means nothing. Lo yachzer lo lozav lo loze, so then return it to neither of them. Bismacha Baal Modeh miha. However, if the husband, so what we're saying though is that so long as the husband says that's my wife's get, so yachzer lisha, so you return it to her. But fact the Gemara, v'leichu shema, but let's be concerned that perhaps because of litein benisin v'lo nosan la'ad tishrei v'ozol baal Zovin peri minisin va'atishrei umafka legita dechosav benisin v'asyu lemitrof lekuchis shelo kadin. This is the kind of stuff that we are going to be focusing on today. These kinds of Nisan Tishrei kinds of things. Nisan Tishrei kinds of things. So we're saying that if you find a get, I'll tell you, Epis, I'm really tired, but I'm really tired, but what time is it? It's like not even 5 o'clock p.m. yet. So like, I'm just really tired, but like, not that tired. Like if I just get in the zone and like get energized, I think I could be all right. Anyways, so we said that if you find a get in Shuk Machne Yehuda, so if the husband says, yeah, that's my wife's get, so you can give it to her. But one second. Maybe we should be concerned that the date on the get is Nisan, but in reality, the get was only given 6 months later in Tishrei, which means that all the while, during that entire 6 months, they were married, which means that the husband, so long as they're married, the nichse melug that we've learned about in Ksubis, in, I don't know, other places, probably getting in Kedushin too, I don't know. Nichse melug are those property that she owns, but the husband can eat the fruits, can eat the pears. So during that whole period, the husband can be buying and selling, right? He could be doing business with those. He could be consuming, he could be selling those pears nichse melug. Shouldn't we be concerned that during this 6-month period between Nisan and Tishrei, the husband is going to be selling pears nichse melug to some guy, but then what's going to happen is she's going to come with her get from Nisan, and she's going to say to the guy, hey, you that wasn't my husband's to sell. As you could see, I was already divorced from Nisan, and she's going to go and take the fruits away from the buyer in an inappropriate manner, because the fact of the matter is they were still married and the husband had the right to be able to sell those fruits, but she's going to come with her document and say, no, you see, it says Nisan, they were mine, not my husband's. So shouldn't we be concerned about that? So again, should we start from the beginning? Let's start from the beginning. Gufa, we had said yesterday, Motza get Isha Bashuk, if you find a writ of divorce in Shuk Machne Yehuda, Bismacha Baal Modeh, if the husband says, yeah, that's my wife's get, Yachzer Lisha, you can give it to her. Ein Abal Modeh, if he screams and yells and says, no, that's not, it's a forgery, Lo Yachzer Lo Lozav Lo Lozav, so then do not return the get, neither to the husband or to the wife. However, so long as the husband admits and says, yeah, it's my wife's get, you can give it to the wife. But shouldn't we be concerned that the date on the get is in Nisan, but the fact of the matter is that he only gave it to her 6 months later in Tishrei, and during that period between Nisan and Tishrei, the husband sold Peres Nichse Melug, but then she's gonna come with her get, the Chosav B'Nissen, which says Nissen, and she is going to go to the buyers and say, hey, look, I'm sorry, but look at my document. It says I was already divorced from Nissen. That wasn't my husband's fruit, it was mine. And she's going to improperly extract the fruits from the buyers. So according to the opinion, was this Reb Shimon's opinion? Who can remember? I feel like it was either Reb Shimon or Rish Lakish. Can't remember, maybe Reb Shimon. That once a person has kind of made up his mind that they're going to get divorced, so at that point he no longer has the rights to the Peres Nichse Melug from that point. So in that case, she can rightfully collect these fruits from the buyer because it was the husband who sold them inappropriately. But according to the opinion that the husband can continue getting benefit and buying and selling from the Peres Nichse Melug up until they actually, right, says, what does it say? Achas Nesina, until he gives the get to her, Ma'ikal Meimar. So why is this allowed? Shouldn't we be concerned that the husband is within his rights to be selling the Peres Nichse Melug until the actual divorce in Tishrei? Shouldn't we be concerned that she's going to whip out the get that's dated from Nisan and inappropriately extract take away what's the word I'm thinking of? Confiscate. I don't know if that's the right word, but whatever. The fruits from the buyer inappropriately. So ki asir lemitraf aminan la aisiraye emas matagita liyadoch. So we said, look, we're not that concerned because you know what's going to happen? She's going to show up by the buyer and say, hey, you bought my Nichse Melug, he look at my get, I was already divorced from Nissen, give him back to me. And you know what the buyer is going to say? Prove it. Prove that, I know that you have a get that says Nissen, but prove that you actually received the get in Nissen. Maybe you only received it in Tishrei, and therefore, I assume that this is related to the concept of Amotzi Mechaver Olav Arai, that if she wants to extract the fruits from the buyer could say, look, I understand that the document that you have was written in Nisan, but prove that you actually received it in Nisan. But frankly, Gemara, why should this be any different than a shtar chov, a document about a loan? Because after all, the Tanan we learned recently, we earned. We didn't just learn, we earned it. We earned it with our entire beings. We earned the following Mishnah Matzah Shtar Chov, that if a fellow finds a shtar chov, a loan document, if the document has says that if Reuven defaults on the loan, so then Shimon can collect from the Chosim Shubadim, Lo Yachzer, we do not return it to Shimon, Ve'ukimna, and we established it in the Gemara Kishachayev Moda, that it's talking about where Reuven admits that that this is a valid document. Umishum Shema Kosav Luvos Benisin V'Lolavad Tishrei V'Katarv Lekuchis Shelo Kadin. And we said in that case, don't give the document to Shimon, because we're concerned that, well, maybe it says Nisan, but in fact the loan only took place in Tishrei, and Shimon's now going to use this document to collect from the Lekuchis inappropriately. So we said in order to prevent that, don't give the document back to Shimon. So how come by the get we say that give the get to her and we're not concerned that she is going to collect inappropriately, and then we said and even if she does, we would ask her to prove it. We don't have the same sort of approach when it comes to a loan document. Over there we say simply don't return it to Shimon at all. So Hasam Nami Lihader, why don't we say the same thing Darton? Say the same thing by the loan document. Give it back to Shimon. V'chi Asi Lemichif, and when he comes to the Lekuches and says, hey, look, my document says that the Nechas Mishubadim already from Nisan, Neimalei, let the Lekuches say to him, I see Raya, if you want to take this field away from me, bring a proof. I know that the document says Nisan, but prove that you actually received the document in Nisan, that you actually gave the loan in Nisan. So why don't we say the same construct over there? Instead, by the document we say, no, just don't give it back to Shimon at all. Amre, they say, Gabe get, because here's the difference. Here's the big difference. Because a get is a very different thing than a loan. When it comes to gittin, you're dealing with marriage, you're dealing with divorce, you're dealing with eshesis, you're dealing with aguna. To deny this woman her get means that she can't get remarried. But there's very significant nafkaminas and differences between giving a get to a woman versus giving a loan document to Shimon. So hacha gabe get isha, when it comes to get asi lokeach vitava. So by the get, the husband, right? So the concern is that it's going to write that maybe it'll say Nisan in the get, but she'll only receive it in Tishrei. All the while, the husband is selling the Paris Nichsei Malog legally, as he's allowed to. She's now, though, going to come with the document and say, you see, I was already divorced from Nisan, give it back to me. We say, yeah, but the Lokeach is simply going to respond to her and say, well, prove that you actually received the get in Nisan. Because the Lokeach is going to say, look, Haida Jua Niala Rabbanon, I know that the reason why the rabbis gave her this get in this scenario is Ligita Mishum de Lo Taigin, because they want to make sure, right? The rabbis know that when it comes to Gittin, they want to prevent a scenario of Aguna where she doesn't have a get. They want to prevent that, and therefore they said, right, this is what the Lekuches are saying to themselves, look, by the fact that she has this get, might be out of the rabbi's concern that she should have a get so that she shouldn't chas v'shalom be an agune. But hashto de ka'asyo lemitrof. But now that she wants to use this get against me to take the fruits that I bought from her husband away from me, tezo v'tesi raya amos matagita liyoda. Let her though prove that she actually received the get at the time that it is written in the get in Nisan. So the Lekuchis is kind of more sort of questioning, more skeptical maybe when it comes to the get, because the Lekuchis know that Davka, when it comes to Gittin, the fact that she has the get might also be the rabbis just being making sure that she has the get in order to prevent aguna. But at the same time, you'd want to double check that the date on the get is really the date that she received it. But Gabe Shtar Chov, he's not thinking this way when it comes to a loan. By a loan, he's dafka thinking fakert. Right? When it comes to the get, the rabbis want to make sure that she has the document. But by the loan, he would say punkt fakert. If the rabbis have any reason to consider foul, right, the rabbis will make sure that if Shimon has a document that would allow him to collect from the Lekuches, that document is real, is truthfully able to collect from the Lekuches, and that there's no foul play going on. Right, so when it comes to the loan document, I hope I didn't say get, when it comes to the loan document, lo asi loikeach v'tova, but by the loan document, when Shimon shows up by the person who purchased Reuven's field, and he says, look, I have a loan document, your field was meshubed to my loan, you have to pay me back, the lokeach is not going to assume that he should say to Shimon, prove it. Where am I? What's the lokeach v'tova? What's the aleph? Omar. Because the lokeach is going to say, from the fact that the rabbis allowed the document to be returned to Shimon, if they would allow it to be returned to Shimon, so he would say that from the fact that they allowed it to be returned to Shimon, pshita, then it must be obvious, why are they returning the shtar chov to Shimon? So that he can collect with it. What other purpose would there be? Lemitrav, in order to collect, who shmamina kamur abonim b'milsa who mikame didi matashtar liyade. So in this case, the lekuchas are going to say, look, by a loan document, obviously the rabbis would only allow the loan document. The only reason why the rabbis would be giving this loan document back to Shimon would be so that he could be tarif lekuchas, so that he can get his money back. Even if Reuven defaults, he would be able to collect from the lekuchas. And therefore, the lekuchas will assume, look, from the fact that Shimon has this document, it must be, I'm going to assume that he received this document before I purchased it, which is why he's allowed to claim it from me. And the rabbis wouldn't have allowed him to receive the document otherwise, right? Because the whole point of the document is to be able to claim this property. So from the fact that the rabbis allowed Shimon to have the document, it must mean that they're allowing him to have it because they're giving it back to him before I purchased the field, and he's in his rights to be able to claim it from me, and he's not going to question it. So whereas by the get, he knows that the rabbis have a vested interest in getting her the document, as much as possible to prevent aguna, so therefore he's going to question it, because he knows that the rabbis might be going out of their way to get her the document. But when it comes to a loan document, it's punkt fakert, that he relies on the rabbis and assumes that they would only give it to Shimon if he would actually be able to collect with it, so he's not gonna contest it. So therefore, when it comes to the loan document, we are more stringent in what we're allowing to give back to Shimon, because if we're not, then he might collect from the lekuchas, and the lekuchas won't push back. So that's why by the loan document we say don't return it to Shimon, because of maybe this whole Nisan Tishrei situation. BavaMetzia dafs take a lot more koiches out of me. A lot. I'm like screaming and yelling and I think I feel like recently when I have to sit down to record the daf, I'm like, holy smokes, like this is about to be a lot. It takes a lot of energy to babble about BavaMetzia. A lot of, because it's so geschmack. How can you not use up every ounce of energy that you have to babble on BavaMetzia? Shechuri avadim v'chulei. Alright, so we said that if you find Shechuri avadim, so we have to be concerned that maybe he changed his mind. Alright, Tanar Rabbanan Matzeh shtar Shechur b'shuk. Okay, so if a person finds an emancipation document in Shuk Machne Yehuda, Bismat Sharav Mode Yachzir Le'eved, that if the Adon says, that is my Eved's Shtar Shichur, you can give it to the Eved. Ein Rav Mode, but if the Adon says, I don't know what that is, it's fake, Lo Yachzir Le'lozev Le'lozev, return it to neither of them. Bismat Sharav Mode Mia, however, so long as the husband, so long as the Adon says that it is, right, that yes, this is my Eved's Shtar Shichur, so Yachzir le'Eved, so you return it to the Eved, v'amai, why should it be returned to the Eved? Nechu shemakosov liten lo b'nisin v'lo nosanad Tishrei. But shouldn't we be concerned that the date in the Shtar Shichur is Nisan, but the fact of the matter is it was only delivered to the Eved in Tishrei 6 months later, which means that all the while Which means that during that period from Nisan till Tishrei, any property that the Eved would have purchased while he was still an Eved, because even though the Shtar Shichur says Nisan, he didn't actually receive it until Tishrei. So during that entire time, he was still an Eved, which means any property that he purchased belongs to the Adin. And then the Adon went and he sold them to a third party, to somebody else. But then, and the Adon was allowed to sell it during that time, because the Eved was not yet free. But right. So again, so the Eved purchased property. The property Memela belonged to the Adon. The Adon then sold the property to somebody else. But now the Eved is going to take this. Shouldn't we be concerned that the Eved is now going to take this document, the Shtar Shichur that says Nisan, and he's going to go to the people who purchased it from the Adon and say, hey, the Adon had no right to sell that. That was mine, because I was already free from Nisan. Right, the shichur the chosef b'nisan, and the Eved is then going to whip out his shtar shichur that says Nisan v'katorif lekuchis shalokadin, and he's going to improperly take away these properties from the people who purchased it from the Adon. Right, so again, so do you remember this machlokas from Masechta Gittin? There's machlokas. Is it considered beneficial for an Eved to go free, or is it not beneficial? Is it beneficial for an Eved to go free for obvious reasons, because he's free now, or is it actually not in his interest? For example, if he's the Eved, right, a Kohen, his Eved can eat Trumah. Rashi points out that that when he's a Eved Kanani, he could be with a Shifcha Kanainis, and maybe he likes that. So there's machlekes about, right, and once he's free, then he can't. So there's machlekes, is it considered beneficial to the Eved to go free or not? So if you say it's beneficial, and as Abaye had said the other day, that the witnesses signed on, it can be zoche to the Eved, so he's already zoche from the time that's written on it, from the time written on the document. Meaning, the point would be that already from the time written on the document, Itaka would be considered free retroactively, and therefore it wasn't right. Therefore, he can extract these properties from the buyer, and therefore he's not doing anything wrong. But according to the opinion who says that it's not beneficial for the Eved to go free, so then only once he goes free in Tishrei is he considered free, but before then he's not, and he would be improperly extracting these properties from the buyers. Because he's going to say, look, I was already free from Nisan, but that's not actually true. So, Michael, what would you say? Just like by the Isha, we would say to the Eved, hey, Eved, prove that I know it says Nisan in the document in the Shtar Shichur, but prove that you actually received it in Nisan, and until you prove it, I'm not giving it back. Okay, so now we get to this kind of. This is going to take us on to Yud Tesamud Beis. Yud Tesamud Beis is kind of a funny Amud because it's extremely verbose. So the whole section earlier on the Amud that we had about like the Shtar Chov and Nisan and Tishrei and Reuven and Shimon and selling it and the Kuchis. So there's a note in the Hagos V'Tzionim that it says Mikan ad Piska Shechuri Avadim Hu Lishono Sharav Yehudai Gon. So interestingly, the Hagos V'Tzionim says that whole chunk about the loan document was actually, I guess, not part of the Gemara officially, but it was added by Rav Yehudai Gon. And on Daf Yud Tesamud Beis, there's another section that apparently was added by Rav Yehudai Gon, and it's quite verbose. I think maybe you're gonna hear it and be like, wow, this is extremely verbose. So it's very interesting. So it's like, it's usually the Gemara is like very succinct to a large extent, right? You gotta really like go a few words at a time. Like you're not just gonna like wolf down like like run quickly through like a half an amud. But I think you're gonna see that that's gonna happen here. I think. Okay, but let's do it. Okay. Daitike matana v'chulei. So we mentioned if you find a like a will, like a tzava shchivmira, or matana, or a gift, so then we have to be concerned that maybe he thought to give it but changed his mind. Tana ban the rabbis taught. Ezui daitike. What is considered a will? Dot tehei lemekim v'lios. This should be right. That whatever is written here should happen. Shem meis. That if this person who wrote the will dies, so it says that his property at that point belongs to so and so, whatever it says in there. Matana, and a gift is kol shekasubo, whatever it says in it, me'ayom ula'achar misa. If it says that my property, the actual property belongs to so and so already from today, but the actual payers, the benefits from the property, will belong to him after I die. Now, iksiv me'ayom ula'achar misa hu dekani v'ilo lo kani, to which the Gemara asks, a gift needs to be in this format that specifically you technically own it from today, but you can't get the benefit until after I die. And what if he just says that it's yours and you can get benefit from it today? Like, why wouldn't, what's the problem with, like, that's a gift, right? Just take all of it today. So Abai says, this is what it's saying. What is a regular gift that is similar to a will? Well, dilo kani ela la'achar misa. Wait, what? Which would only be koni after misa. Kol shekasu ba me'ayom ula'achar misa. Okay, a gift that would be similar in some ways to a will would be that if you say, well, this is your gift from today, that you technically own it today, but you can't actually get benefit until after I die. So there's the after I die piece, which is in that way similar to a will. Okay, fine. So in that way, you can have a gift that is similar to a will. Fine. Ha'amar. So time of the lo amar tenu. Ha'amar tenu nosnin. So in our Mishnah, we had said that if you find these documents, don't return them because we're concerned that maybe the owner of the document changed his mind and wasn't going to deliver them. But if he says, no, give them, so then we give them. Viraminu, we have a contradiction. Motzo diaskaos aputikos umatonos. That if you find gifts, afal pisha shnei modin lo yachzir lolaze v'lolaze. That if you find diaskos, aputikos, matonos, the wills or aputikos, they're like, you can collect, right? You can collect from money from this field. Umatanos gifts, afal pisha shnei modin, even though both both parties agree, lo yachzir lolaze v'lolaze. Do not return to either one. Wow. Okay, so let's actually read Taka this Rashi. So let's read the bottom Rashi on this Amud. It's gonna be important. I think we should read the bottom Rashi on this Amud. Yachzer Shema Kosva Lazeh, because we're concerned about the following scenario. That maybe the person who wrote, right, so we're saying if you find like a gift, if you find a document that is gifting, I don't know, let's say a field to somebody, okay, a document, Shimon wrote a document that gifts a field to Reuven, okay? So Shema Kosva Lazeh, we're concerned that maybe he wrote this document for Reuven, V'lo Masulo, but he never ended up giving it to Reuven. V'lo Zacha B'karka, and therefore Reuven never actually acquired the property because Shimon changed his mind and never gave it to Reuven. And instead, Shimon wrote a different document and gave it to Levi, gave it to somebody else. Umasalo ashtar, and he gave that document to Levi. V'zachabo, and it belongs to Levi. Oh, what's that? I gotta scratch my nose. Sorry, Mom. Uvalach zorbo minasheni, and he changed his mind. He says, dag nabbit, I gave the field to Levi. Darn it, I don't want Levi to have my field. He says, no, I actually do want it to belong to Reuven. The problem is that he already gave the document to Levi, so it belongs to Levi. So what he wants is that this document should make its way to Reuven, so that Reuven will now have this document, which was, of course, the first document that was written. He initially wrote the document for Reuven. He then didn't write it, so he had another separate document written up for Levi, and he gave it to Levi, so now Levi owns it, but now he says, I don't want Levi to have it, I want Reuben to have it. He says, well, I still have that document, which has an earlier date on it, so if I can make sure that this document gets back to Reuven, that Reuven will then be able to take out and bring this document to Bezdin, and when Reuven comes to Bezdin with this document, and Levi also comes with his document, Bezdin will say, Reuven's document is earlier, it belongs to Reuven. So if you find this document in Shuk Machne Yehuda, and both Shimon and Reuven say, yeah, it's a valid document, it's correct, do not give it to Reuven, because we're concerned that there's a whole scheme going on, and really Shimon's trying to get the field to Reuven instead of Levi, who rightfully owns it. Okay, so now our Mishnah, however, had said that don't return the document to Reuven, because we're concerned that maybe Shimon changed his mind. But if Shimon said no, give it to Reuven, so we'd give it to him. But what about the Brisa which says that we wouldn't give it to Reuven because we're worried about the scheme? So Abba bar Mamo lo kasha habibari v'ha b'shchiv meira. Okay, so it depends if the document that was found was a will, was a matnas shchiv meira. Is that what it's called? Matnas shchiv meira? I can't remember. Is that what it's called? Yeah, matnas shchiv meira? Maybe. I can't remember. Tzavos shchiv meira? I don't know, I can't remember. Why can't I remember? Was it? Okay, I really want to go right to the. Okay, fine. So, I think it's matnas shchiv meira. I don't know, I can't remember. Anyways, so tzavos shchiv meira. One second. Okay, so Rashi said matnas shchiv meira. That's what I'm going to go with. So the Mishnah that says that we can give it to Reuven, so that's talking about a matnas shchiv meira. The Brisa which says we do not give it to Reuven, that is talking about where you find a matnas bari, a regular gift. So again, it says Rabbi bar Mamo lo kasha habi bari v'b'shchiv meira. It depends if the document that was found was a matnas bari or matnas shchiv meira. Masnisin de katani, our Mishnah which says you can return it, ha'omar tnu nosnin, right? That if Shimon says give it to Reuven, we give it b'shchiv meira. That's talking about a matnas shchiv meira debar mahaderhu, because the shchiv meira, the person who's on his deathbed, can change his mind. He can always take it back, right? He can write this document, and he can even give it to Reuven, and then he could always change his mind and take it back. So long as he's still alive, he can always retract. So the Amrina that we say, Ma'ika Lemeimar, what are we concerned about at the end of the day? Dilma Kosva Meikar Lahai, are we concerned that maybe Shimon initially had written the property over to Reuven, right? This document that we found, this matnas shchiv meira, was for Reuven. Ve'amlich, but then he changed his mind. Ve'lo yaiva ni'alei, and he didn't give this document to Reuven. Ve'adar kos v'lina shachrina, and then instead he wrote it to Levi. Ve'yaiva ni'alei, and Itaka gave it to Levi. Hashta kahadar be me'ahu, the Yaiva Niale. But now he changed his mind. He says, wait, I don't want Levi to have this property. And if we're concerned that maybe he gave the field to Levi as a matnas bari, as a proper gift, not as a matnas shchivmira, leislei pseida, but still, even if we were then to give this matnas shchivmira back to Ruvain, again, we're talking about a scenario where he had this matnas shchivmira, which says that that Shimon's property goes to Ruvain. He then changed his mind. He never gave it to Ruvain. He then actually ended up giving it to Levi. But now he's going to say, "Wait, actually, I don't want Levi to have it, even though it now belongs to Levi." And we're concerned that maybe then he's going to say, "Okay, let's get this matnas shchivmira back to Ruvain." Leislei pseida, that there's nothing to be actually in practice to be concerned about, because the chinafke tarte. Because when they both, Ruvain and Levi, go to Bezdin, at the end of the day, because a matnas shchivmira can be retracted, so when both Ruvain and Levi take out their documents, Ruvain's is earlier than Levi's, but still, Ruvain's though is a matnas shchivmira, so then, Basraisa Zochi, Levi is going to be able to retain this field if he has it, Deha, Hadar Be Mikamaisa, because clearly, from the fact that there's, Shimon subsequently gave it to Levi, clearly he retracted from the original document that allegedly he had given to Ruvain as a matnas shchivmira. Even matnas shchivmira, and if Shimon had theoretically given the field to Levi as a matnas shchivmira, well then, Nami Yaiva Niale Leisba Pseida. So also in that case, for the same reason, there wouldn't actually be any problems. The Basrai says that Levi would be able to retain the field. The Kahadar Bein Mikamaisa, because for the same reason as earlier, that clearly Shimon retracted from the matnas shchivmira that he had initially given to Ruvain. So therefore, if we're concerned about some kind of a scheme that maybe Shimon had given the field to Levi and changed his mind and he was going to take it away from Levi inappropriately, there's actually nothing to be concerned about, since the document that was found is a matnas shchivmira, and a matnas shchivmira can be retracted, so there's really nothing to be concerned about. Levi will retain the field. Kikatoni b'braise, and when the braise says do not return the document to Ruvain, afal pisha shnei modim, even though both Shimon and Ruvain agree that it can be returned to Ruvain, do not return it to Ruvain. Lo yachzir lolaza v'lolaza, do not return the document to either Ruvain or Shimon. Bibari, because that's talking about a regular gift. Because since what was found was a regular gift, we are concerned that maybe what happened was Shimon had initially written this document for Ruvain, then changed his mind and never gave it to Ruvain, but then he ended up giving it to Levi, and after giving it to Levi, and now Levi actually owns it, he changed his mind and he wants to give it to Ruvain, and he's gonna, and then he's gonna get it back to Ruvain, and because we're talking about two regular gift documents, we would go by the earlier one, and Ruvain would then get the field, inappropriately. Right, so again, kikatoni b'braise, where you don't give it back to the one, bibari, it's talking about a proper gift that was found, that when it comes to a proper gift, you cannot take that back. Once Shimon were to theoretically give this gift to Levi, it cannot be taken away from Levi. And the concern is that if then this gift document that was found was given to Ruvain, then we will inappropriately take it away from Levi, even though it can't be taken away from Levi. The Amrina that we say, Dilma, maybe, Kosva Lahai Meikar, maybe what happened was that Shimon had initially written this gift document for Ruvain, but then he changed his mind, V'lo Yaivalei, and he never actually gave it to Ruvain, so Ruvain never actually acquired the field. And then Shimon wrote a document for Levi and actually gave the document to Levi, and therefore it actually belongs to Levi and it cannot be taken away from Levi. But now Shimon changes his mind and he doesn't want Levi to have it. And he figures lo matzina adrona bi, I can't take it away from Levi, he already owns it. Eimer lahu, well, I'll tell the people who find this document, de ono lahai yahavta, that I, Taka, gave this document to Ruvain, v'nehadru niale, and they therefore will return the document to Ruvain. Nihale kosva, they're going to return the document to Ruvain. Kiechi dechim mapik haiksava dikodim zochabe hu. And now, when they go to Bezdin and Ruvain takes out his document and Shimon takes out his document, they're going to say, "Oh, well, Ruvain's document is dated earlier. It must be that the property belongs to Ruvain, not to Levi." Dikodim le zochabe hu. So Ela Amrinon le, rather, so we don't allow this to fly in this case when we're talking about proper gifts. Rather, what we say to Shimon is, Anon haiksova lo yaivinon le lehai. We cannot allow this document to be returned to Reuven out of concern that maybe you had written a different document and given it to Levi. Right? Lo yaivinon le lehai. Do michtav kosavta me'ev lo yahavta near le, because maybe you wrote the document for Reuven, but never actually gave it to him. And maybe you ended up then giving the field to Levi. But now you changed your mind and you don't want Levi to have it. So rather, if in fact you have not given it to any other party, if you have not given it to Levi, and you want Reuven to have it, so what you should do is write another document now, and give it to Reuven. And now, in the event, if you did give the document to Levi, and there is a Levi who now owns the field, right? He gave it to somebody named Levi, and he now owns the field. Well, there won't be any foul play, because the Kadam Zochi, whoever has the earlier dated document, will get the field. And so if you didn't give it to Levi, so then Reuven will be the only one with a document, and he will be able to collect it. If you did give it to Levi, well then Reuven will only have this new document that's being written now, and both Reuven and Levi will take their documents to court, and Levi will have the earlier dated document and he will be able to keep it, so that way there won't be any foul play. So basically, what Rabbi Abba Bar Mamel says, that if the document that was found was a matna shchiv mirah, it can be returned to Reuven, because matna shchiv mirahs can be retracted, and therefore, even if Levi comes to court, Levi would be able to keep the document. Where the Brisa says you cannot return it, it's because it's talking about matnas bari, which cannot be retracted, and therefore we actually have to be concerned that maybe there is some foul play happening over here. Maskiv lo Rav Zvid. Rav Zvid asked a kasha on Rav Abba Bar Mamel. But in both the Mishnah and the Brisa, we also include wills, tiaskos. Both of them talk about matnas shchiv mirah. Why would you say one of them is talking about matnas shchiv mirah and the other one's talking about matnas bari? Both of them mention matnas shchiv mirah. So Elam Rav Zvid, rather it says Rav Zvid, you could say that both scenarios are talking about a shchiv mirah. What's going on outside? The heck is that? I'm wearing my noise cancelling headphones and I can still hear it. Must be super loud. I have no clue what they're doing. So both are talking about matnas shchiv mirah. It depends if it's talking about the father or the son. What in the world is going on out there? Wait 1 second, it's driving me crazy. Okay, I have no clue what is going on out there. Hopefully they're done. Where am I now? Right, okay, so I'm so tired. Okay, where am I? What? Maskar of Zvid, ha'idi v'idi diaskos, katani, elo amar of Zvid, ha'vah b'shchiv mirah, v'lo kasha, ha'bei, v'ha b'brei. Masnis l'kamar tnu nostim b'didei, debar mahadru. So, okay, so when the Mishnah talks about so when the Mishnah talks about that you can return it to Ruvain, it's talking about the Shriv Mira himself, because the Shriv Mira can be he could retract his tzava Shriv Mira. Taminon inami yaiva leinish achrina, even if, as we said earlier, even if Shimon ended up giving the field to Levi, Leis Babseta, there's nothing wrong. Dikama uvasra ba'asra zachi. That if both Reuven and Levi show up in Bezdin, Levi would be able to retain the field. Deha hadar bei mi kama, because Shimon, the Shriv Mira, changed his mind and retracted from the from giving it to Reuven, and instead he gave it to Shimon, to Levi, and Levi would keep it. Ki katani bebraise avbisha shneim modim lo yachzil lo v'lo loze. When it says in the Brisa that even though they both agree that it goes to Reuven, do not give it, and it's talking about Matna Shriv Mira, Bibrei, it's talking about Shimon's son, the Aminon, that we say, Dilma Kosav Avua Lehai, that we're concerned that maybe Shimon, the father, had initially written the Matna Shriv Mira to Reuven, but then Shimon changed his mind, and he never gave it to Reuven, Tachlis. But now after Shimon died, because of Iu, Shimon's son, Shimon Jr., Shimon the second, so because of Iu, Le'inish Achrina, after his, so we're concerned that maybe what happened was, initially the father, Shimon, was going to give this property to Reuven, but he changed his mind and never gave it to Reuven. After Shimon went to Wellwood, his son, Shimon II, gave the property to Levi. V'yavale gave the property to Levi. V'hashta kohadar bei me'ahu. And now Shimon II is saying, wait, no, I don't want Levi to have it. Sover mehader lo matzina hadronabi, and Shimon II is going to say, look, I can't take it away from Levi. I already gave it to him. Emerlu, what I'll say is the Abba Yaiva le lehai vinosnu le. What I will say is that, wait, no, the field, right. Actually, my father had given the Matna Shriv Mira to Reuven. Where am I? What? Wait, where am I? What? Where am I? Emalu de Abba Yaiva lehai avinezvule, and we should give it to Reuven. What? Kosve. What? Vinezel vinapik mine. What? Wait, what? What? Wait, what? Where am I? Adronabi. What? Emar lehu de Abba Yaiva lehai vinosvule ksove vinezel. V'napik minei dehu zachi v'niflo baide. Dude, I think that reads fine. But basically what he's saying is that I don't want Levi to have it. What I'll have is, we'll have this document, and we'll basically say that my father gave it to Reuven when he was alive, which would mean that in that case, it actually belongs to Reuven, right? Because if he's saying that my father gave it to Reuven and I gave it to Levi, but it belonged to Reuven before it belonged to Levi, and this way him and Reuven will be able to split it. Therefore we say to Shimon II, Onon haiksava lo yavinon lehai. Therefore we say to Shimon II, look, we can't give this document to Reuven. The Dilma Michtav Kasve Avua Me'av Lo Yaivale, because after all, we're concerned that maybe your father wrote the document for Reuven, but never actually gave it to Reuven. V'yahavte ad leinish achrina, and maybe you gave it to Levi. V'kahadrat be, and you're changing your mind now. Ele ikushta ka'amai, but if you're telling the truth, the Yoivle Avuch, that your father in fact did give it to Reuven. Zil at hashto ksivle shtar achrina. So what you should do is you should write now a document for Reuven. The inami lo yaiva le avua. Because in the event that your father didn't write it and give it to Reuven, and you ended up selling it to Levi, there won't actually be any issue because then if Levi comes with a document and Reuven comes with a document, Levi's document will be earlier and Levi would be able to retain the field. So to avoid any foul play, just write a new document now and give it to Reuven. It's like the blockchain basically. That it's always like, it keeps like a record of the most recent transactions. Tana Rabbana the Rabbis taught Matzah Shover. Okay, so now we're going to do a final push to the Mishnah, and it's going to be another one of these Nisan Tishrei things, and then we're going to get to the next Mishnah. Tana Rabbana Matzah Shover, that if you find a receipt that a husband that a wife has written to her husband that she has received her ksuba, right? So the wife has a ksuba that she can use to collect from the husband. When the husband pays her, she writes him a receipt that she received the ksuba. So Tana Rabbana Matzah Shover, if you find this receipt that a wife writes to her husband that she's received her ksuba payment, Bizman she'isha moda, if she says, "Yep, I received my payment. Yeah, this is my husband's receipt." Yachzir lebal, so then give the receipt to the husband. Eina isha moda, but if the wife says, "Wait, no, I never received. No, this is not a valid receipt." Lo yachzir lo lazav lo lazav, so then you return it to neither of them. Bizman she'isha moda mias yachzir lebal. But so long as she does admit it and she does say, "Yes, this is a valid receipt," we return it to the husband. But v'leichu, shouldn't we be concerned? Dilma kosva litein benisin v'lo nosna ad tishrei, but maybe the receipt is dated from Nisan, but maybe she only gave it to her husband in Tishrei, meaning the point is that they were still married until Tishrei, and it was only in Tishrei that they got divorced and she received her payment and she gave her the receipt. But between Nisan and Tishrei, during that 6-month period, they were still married. And what she's going to do is, she's going to make a shtickle scheme. And in the meantime, when she's still married, she's going to sell her ksuba to a third party. A third party, b'tovas hanoah, right? We've learned about tovas hanoah, that basically it's a gamble. She says, "Look, my ksuba is worth $1,000. She says to this third party, this guy, she says, "Look, I'll sell you the ksuba right now for $500. I get $500 cash. And then in the event that my husband dies or we get divorced, and I would receive the ksuba payment, it wouldn't go to me, it would go to you. So it's a gamble. You give me $500 now for a potential reward of $1,000. You could make your money back double. So shouldn't we be concerned that the receipt will be dated Nisan, but they won't actually get divorced in Tishrei? In the meantime, she's going to make a deal with somebody else for $500 cash right now. She'll get $500 cash right now. And then if they get divorced, this other person will collect the ksuba of $1,000. Right? But then the husband is going to whip out this shover that says that he had already paid her ksuba back in Nisan. And therefore, when this person comes to claim the ksuba from the husband, he's going to say, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'd already paid the ksuba before you purchased it." And he's going to deprive this person inappropriately of his $1,000 that he had gambled on. Because after all, they were still married when he had purchased it, and he is entitled to the $1,000, but the husband's going to say, "No, it had already been paid at that time." So shouldn't we be concerned about this whole Nisan Tishrei thing? So Amarava says, "Rava Shmamina Isa l'Shmuel. The Amar Shmuel Amochish Ta'achov Lachaver V'Chazu Machalo Machul V'Afilu Yorish Machul." So says Rava. So this proves that the halacha is like Shmuel, who says that if Shimon lends Reuven $1,000, and then Shimon says to Levi, "Look, Levi, if you give me $500 right now, I'll give you the document and you can collect $1,000 from Reuven, right? You give me $500, you can make 1,000, you can then make $1,000 and double the money. So then Shimon can then go back to Reuven and say, Reuven, by the way, I know I lent you $1,000, don't worry about it. And that would be, he can do that. And even Shimon's kids can do it. So we see here also that be'etzem, what happened? The husband owed, the husband owes the wife her ksuba, and we're saying, right, and then she's basically selling the ksuba to this other person, and then she's then be'etzem saying to the husband, you don't need to pay this other person. So Shmamina Isa the Shmuel, so we see that it holds like Shmuel, the Omer Shmuel, that Shmuel says, that if Shimon sells his document to Levi, and then he says to Reuven, don't worry about paying it back, Machu. It's paid back. Yoresh Mochel. And even the heirs can do it, right? So therefore, the wife could be'etzem say to the husband, don't worry about paying back the ksuba after she already sold it to this third party. Abaye says, Abaye filutema leisi l'Shmuel. You could say, you can even say we don't hold like Shmuel. And here what are we talking about? Here, Davka, we're talking about where she could still, meaning when we say that we can give the shover back to the husband, is when she still has the ksuba, and she could prove that she didn't sell it to anybody. Rava Amar, Rava says, that's not so convincing. She might have two ksubas. Abai Omer says, first of all, no, we're not concerned that maybe she has two ksubas, and if she provides her ksuba, then we can assume that she hadn't sold it to a third party. And additionally, the shover, the receipt would be valid from the time that's written on it from Nisan, and that's like Abai says, that Eda Bachasumav Zochlo, that we go based on the document with the witnesses on it, and if the receipt says from Nisan, so that's what we go by. Oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. That was Daf Yud Tes of Masechta BavaMetzia. We talked about like Nisan and Tishrei and stuff. Peace out.